They said Giannis Antetokounmpo was soft, a regular season hero who crumbled when championships were on the line. After the Toronto Raptors crushed his Milwaukee Bucks in 2019, it seemed like the critics were right. But what happened next would shock the basketball world. In a dark gym on Chicago's South Side, the greatest player in NBA history sat down with a broken young star and shared 3 secrets he'd never told anyone. Not his teammates, not his coaches, not even his family. Michael Jordan's advice wasn't just about basketball, it was about transforming pain into power, failure into fuel, and doubt into unstoppable determination. What Jordan revealed that night would turn Giannis from a playoff disappointment into a champion who dominated the league. But the real secret behind their meeting was something even more incredible. A dying father's love that reached across time to guide his son to greatness. This is the true story of how 3 simple rules changed everything, and why the most important victories aren't won on the court, but in the hearts of those we inspire. The apartment was too quiet. That was the first thing Giannis noticed when he walked through his front door in Milwaukee on that cold December night in 2019. No music playing, no TV sounds, just silence that felt heavy like a winter coat. He dropped his gym bag by the door and looked around his empty living room. The leather couch sat there like it was judging him. The big TV screen was black and cold. Even his trophies on the shelf seemed to be looking away from him. 3 days had passed since the Toronto Raptors knocked his Milwaukee Bucks out of the playoffs. 3 days since Kawhi Leonard hit that shot that bounced 4 times on the rim before falling in. 3 days since the whole world decided that Giannis Antetokounmpo was just another player who couldn't win when it mattered most. Regular season hero, they called him on ESPN. Playoff zero. The words still hurt like a punch to the stomach. Giannis walked to his kitchen and opened the fridge. He stared at the food inside but didn't want any of it. His stomach felt sick, but not from hunger. It was the kind of sick you get when you fail at something you care about more than anything else in the world. His phone buzzed on the counter. Another text message he didn't want to read, probably from his brother Thanasis trying to make him feel better. Or maybe from his mom back in Athens, telling him she was proud of him no matter what. Sweet words that felt like salt on an open wound. He picked up the phone anyway. The message was from Alex Saratsis, his agent. Call me. Important. Giannis almost ignored it. Alex probably wanted to talk about next season already. About training plans and new contracts and all the business stuff that felt meaningless right now. But something about the word important made him dial the number. Giannis? Alex's voice sounded strange. Excited, but also confused. Yeah, it's me. Where are you right now? Home? Why? Are you sitting down? Giannis looked around his kitchen. Do I need to be? Maybe. I just got the strangest phone call of my life. From who? Alex took a deep breath. Someone claiming to work for Michael Jordan. The name hit Giannis like lightning. Michael Jordan. The greatest basketball player who ever lived. The man whose poster hung on Giannis's bedroom wall when he was a poor kid in Athens, Greece, dreaming of playing in America. That's impossible, Giannis said. That's what I thought too. But the person knew things, private things about your contract, about your family, about stuff that's not public information. Giannis felt his heart start beating faster. What did they want? They said Mr. Jordan wants to meet with you. Privately. No cameras, no agents, no team officials. Just you and him. Why? They wouldn't say. Just that it was important. and it had to happen soon. Giannis started pacing around his kitchen. This had to be a joke, some cruel prank by someone who knew he was at his lowest point. Michael Jordan didn't just call random players for private meetings, especially not players who had just embarrassed themselves in the biggest games of their lives. "Alex, this sounds crazy." "I know it does, but what if it's real? Why would Michael Jordan want to meet me? I just lost in the worst way possible. I'm the guy everyone's calling soft. I'm the guy who can't win the big games. Maybe that's exactly why he wants to meet you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Giannis stopped pacing and stared out his kitchen window at the empty street below. Snow was starting to fall, tiny white flakes dancing in the streetlight. "Did they say when?" Giannis asked quietly. "Tomorrow night. Chicago. There's an old gym on the south side called Kenwood Academy. They said Jordan used to practice there when he was young." "Tomorrow? That's impossible. I can't just fly to Chicago for some mystery meeting that might not even be real." The person said they'd send a private jet. No publicity. No one would know except you and Jordan. Giannis felt dizzy. This was either the most amazing thing that had ever happened to him or the cruelest trick someone had ever played. After the worst week of his basketball life, someone was offering him a chance to meet his childhood hero. "What do you think I should do?" he asked Alex. "Honestly, I think you should go. What's the worst that could happen? If it's fake, you waste one night. If it's real, then Michael Jordan wants to talk to me for some reason I can't understand." Exactly. Giannis looked at his reflection in the dark kitchen window. The face looking back at him was tired and sad. The face of someone who had let down his team, his city, and himself. What could Michael Jordan possibly want with a face like that? But then he remembered something his father had told him before. He died. "Giannis," Charles had said, "sometimes the most important opportunities come when you feel like you deserve them the least." "Okay," Giannis said into the phone. "Set it up." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm going anyway." After he hung up, Giannis sat on his couch and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow night, he would either meet the greatest basketball player in history or discover that someone had played a terrible joke on him when he was already down. Either way, sitting in his quiet apartment, feeling sorry for himself, wasn't going to change anything. At least in Chicago, something would happen. Good or bad, at least it would be something. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "Kenwood Academy, 8 p.m. Come alone. Wear basketball shoes. A friend." Giannis stared at the message until his eyes hurt. Then he set his phone down and went to his bedroom to pack a bag. He didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kawhi Leonard's shot bouncing on the rim. 4-bond fee bounces in and out, in and out, in and out, and then in. But tomorrow night, maybe something different would happen. Something that would make those 4 bounces feel like ancient history. He didn't know it yet, but that phone call would change everything. Not just his basketball career, but his entire life. Not just how he played the game, but how he thought about winning and losing and what it really meant to be great. The quiet apartment suddenly felt full of possibilities. And for the first time in 3 days, Giannis smiled. Tomorrow, he would meet Michael Jordan. Or at least, he would find out. If miracles were real, the phone call had changed everything. He just didn't know how much yet. As snow continued to fall outside his window, Giannis fell asleep on his couch, still wearing his clothes, dreaming of dark gyms and bouncing basketballs, and the voice of the greatest player who ever lived saying his name. tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something he couldn't imagine. Tomorrow, everything would change. The Uber driver kept looking at Giannis in the rearview mirror, not because he knew who he was, but because anyone who was 7 feet tall got stares, especially when they were riding through the south side of Chicago at night, carrying a gym bag and looking nervous. "You sure this is the right address?" the driver asked as they pulled up to Kenwood Academy. The old brick building looked dark and empty. Most of the streetlights were broken, and the few that worked cast long shadows across the cracked sidewalk. "Yeah, this is it," Giannis said, though he wasn't sure of anything anymore. He paid the driver and stepped out into the cold December air. The Uber pulled away, leaving him alone on the empty street. For a moment, he thought about calling another car and going back to the airport. This felt like a mistake. A big, embarrassing mistake that would make his bad week even worse. But then he heard it. The sound of a basketball bouncing inside the building. Thump, thump, thump. Slow and steady, like a heartbeat. Giannis walked up the front steps of the school. The door was unlocked, which seemed strange for a place that looked abandoned. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The hallway was dark, except for a thin line of light coming from under a door at the end of the corridor. The bouncing sound got louder as he walked toward the light. His footsteps echoed off the old tiles, and he could smell that familiar gym smell. Sweat and rubber and years of basketball dreams. He reached the door and pushed it open. The gymnasium was mostly dark, but a single spotlight shone down on center court. And there, under that light, stood a man in simple workout clothes. Gray sweatshirt, black shorts, old basketball shoes. He was bouncing a basketball with one hand while looking at his phone with the other. Even in the dim light, even after all. These years, Giannis knew exactly who it was. Michael Jordan. His airness looked up from his phone and smiled. Not the big, camera-ready smile from commercials and interviews. This was smaller, more real. The smile of someone who was genuinely happy to see you. "You came," Jordan said, his voice echoing in the empty gym. Giannis stood frozen in the doorway. Part of his brain still couldn't believe this was really happening. The man who had inspired him to play basketball, whose moves he had practiced in parking lots in Athens, whose championship celebrations he had watched on grainy internet videos, was standing right there talking to him. Yes, sir, I came," Jordan laughed. "You don't have to call me sir, Michael's fine, or MJ if you want." He dribbled the ball between his legs without looking down. "Come on in, close the door behind you." Giannis did as he was told, and walked slowly toward center court. Up close, Jordan looked older than he did in pictures. He was 56 now, with gray streaks in his hair and lines around his eyes. But he still moved like a basketball player. Every step had purpose. "Nice gym, right?" Jordan said, looking around at the old bleachers and faded banners. "This is where I used to sneak in to practice when I was 16. Security guard named Mr. Washington would let me stay as long as I locked up when I left." It's really you," Giannis said, still not quite believing it. "Last time I checked." Jordan stopped dribbling and held the ball in both hands. "You look surprised." "I thought maybe this was some kind of joke, or a dream." "Not a joke, and if it's a dream, we're both having the same one." Jordan walked closer, and Giannis could see his eyes clearly now. They were serious, focused, the same eyes that had stared down Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and every other great player of his era. "You want to know why I asked you here?" Jordan said. "Yes, sir. Yes." Jordan smiled again. "Because 3 days ago, you experienced something I know very well." You felt like the whole world was watching you fail. Like every person on Earth suddenly decided you weren't good enough. The words hit Giannis harder than he expected. That was exactly how he felt. Like everyone was laughing at him behind his back. "The Raptors," Giannis said quietly. "The Raptors." 4 bounces on the rim. Game over. Season over. Dreams postponed. Jordan started walking around the center circle, still holding the ball. "You know what I thought when I watched that shot go?" "In? What?" I thought. "That kid's about to learn the most important lesson of his career." "Which is?" Jordan stopped walking and looked directly at Giannis. "That losing is just information. It's data about what you need to work on. But most players don't see it that way. Most players let losing poison their minds." Giannis felt his chest tighten. "Everyone's calling me soft, saying I can't win the big games." "Good. Good? You know what they called me after the Pistons beat us 3 years in a row? Same thing. Soft. Not clutch. A scorer who couldn't win when it mattered." Jordan's voice got quieter, but somehow more intense. The Detroit Pistons created something called the Jordan Rules. Their whole game plan was to beat me up physically and mentally, make me doubt myself. Giannis had heard about the Jordan Rules, but hearing Jordan talk about them felt different. More personal. "Did it work?" Giannis asked. "For a while. I went home after those losses and wondered if they were right. If I'd ever be good enough to win a championship. If I was just a player who put up pretty numbers but couldn't get the job done when everything was on the line." This was not the Michael Jordan that Giannis had seen in documentaries. This wasn't the confident, trash-talking legend. This was a man sharing his deepest fears with someone he barely knew. "What changed?" Giannis asked. Jordan smiled, but it was a different kind of smile now. Sadder, but also stronger. "I realized that the voice in my head telling me I wasn't good enough sounded exactly like the voices of people who had never accomplished anything close to what I was trying to do. So I stopped listening to them and started listening to something else." "What?" "The sound of my own heartbeat when everything was on the line. The feeling in my chest when I knew my team needed me most. The part of me that had been fighting to prove people wrong since I got cut from my high school basketball team." Jordan bounced the ball once, hard. The sound echoed through the empty gym like a gunshot. "That's why you're here, Giannis. Not because you failed, but because of how you're going to respond to that failure. I've been watching you for 3 years. I see something in you that reminds me of myself at your age." "What do you see?" "Hunger. Pain. And the most important thing, you care more about winning than you do about looking good while you lose." Giannis felt something shift inside his chest, like a door opening that he didn't know was closed. "I want to win so badly it hurts," he said. "I know you do. That's why I'm here. That's why we're talking in this old gym instead of some fancy restaurant where people would take pictures and make this about publicity." Jordan walked to the free throw line and took a shot. The ball went in with a perfect swish, even though he barely seemed to be trying. "I'm going to tell you 3 things tonight that I've never told anyone else. Not my teammates, not my coaches, not even my family. These are the secrets that changed me from a player who got beat by the Pistons into someone who won 6 championships." Giannis felt his heart racing. "Why me?" "Because you're ready to hear them. Because you've been humbled enough to listen. And because—" Jordan paused and looked around the empty gym. "Because I think your father would have wanted me to." The mention of his father hit Giannis like a surprise punch. His dad had died just 2 years ago, never getting to see his son become a star in the NBA. "You knew my father?" Jordan's expression changed, became softer, more careful. Let's just say, I know what it's like to play for someone who isn't here to see you succeed. My father was murdered when I was at the peak of my career. Every championship after that was for him. The two men stood in silence for a moment, sharing the weight of loss that only they could understand. Are you ready to hear what I learned? Jordan asked. Giannis nodded, not trusting his voice. Good. Because once I tell you these things, you can't unknow them. They'll change how you think about everything, how you prepare, how you play, how you handle pressure. Jordan walked back to center court and faced Giannis directly. But first, I need to ask you something. What's the most important thing to you in the world? Basketball. Wrong answer. Giannis looked confused. My family? Better, but still not right. I don't know. Jordan smiled. The most important thing to you should be becoming the person your father raised you to be. Everything else, basketball, fame, money, is just a way to honor his memory. The words hit Giannis so hard, he almost sat down. His father had always told him that basketball was just a game. But how you played it showed who you really were as a person. Now, Jordan said, are you ready to learn how champions really think? Giannis nodded, his throat too tight to speak. The empty gym felt smaller now, like the whole world had shrunk down to just him and Michael Jordan under that single spotlight. Jordan walked to the center of the court and set the basketball down. It rolled a few feet away and stopped, like it was waiting to listen too. Rule number 1, Jordan said, his voice cutting through the silence. Master your mind before you master your body. He turned to face Giannis directly. Everyone thinks basketball is about being tall, being fast, being strong. That's maybe 30% of it. The other 70% happens up here. Jordan tapped his temple with his finger. I don't understand, Giannis said. How many hours do you practice shooting every day? 2, maybe 3. How many hours? Do you practice thinking? Giannis looked confused. Thinking? Mental training, visualization, preparing your mind for pressure situations, learning how to control your thoughts when everything is going wrong. Jordan started pacing slowly around the center circle. When Kawhi Leonard's shot was bouncing on that rim, what were you thinking? The memory hit Giannis like a slap. I was thinking, please miss, please miss, please miss. Exactly. You were hoping something would happen instead of preparing for what might happen. Champions don't hope. They prepare. Jordan stopped pacing and looked at Giannis. If I could go back to that moment, do you know what I would have been thinking? What? I would have been seeing myself getting the rebound if it missed. I would have been planning my next move before the ball even stopped bouncing. I would have been ready for any outcome because I had already lived through all of them in my mind. The words hit Giannis like lightning. He had never thought about basketball that way before. Every night before a big game, Jordan continued, I would lie in bed and play the entire game in my head. Not just the good parts. I would imagine missing shots, making mistakes, falling behind by 20 points. Then, I would imagine how I would respond to each situation. That sounds exhausting. It was. But when those situations actually happened, in real games, my mind was ready. I had already been there before. I knew exactly what to do because I had practiced it in my thoughts. Jordan picked up the basketball and held it in both hands. Physical practice teaches your muscles what to do. Mental practice teaches your mind how to stay calm when your muscles want to panic. How do I learn that? The same way you learned to shoot free throws. Practice. Every day, spend time visualizing pressure situations. See yourself making the big shot, but also see yourself missing it and still finding a way to win. Train your mind to be ready for anything. Jordan set the ball down again and walked closer to Giannis. Rule number 2. Find your championship switch. What's a championship switch? It's the thing that transforms you from a good player into a killer. Every great champion has one. It's something so personal, so powerful, that when you access it in crucial moments, you become unstoppable. Giannis leaned forward. This sounded like magic. What was yours? Jordan's expression changed, became harder, more focused. The day I got cut from my high school basketball team, the coach said I wasn't good enough, wasn't tall enough, wasn't strong enough. He put up the list of players who made the team, and my name wasn't on it. How did that help you? Every time I stepped on a basketball court after that, especially in big moments, I could still see that coach's face. I could still feel the embarrassment of walking out of that gym knowing I wasn't good enough. And I would think, never again. No one will ever tell me I'm not good enough again. Jordan's voice got quieter but somehow more intense. That feeling, that memory, was my championship switch. When the game was on the line and I needed to be great, I would flip that switch and become the kid who got cut, the kid who had something to prove. So I need to find my own switch? Need to find the thing that hurts you most. The thing that makes you angry in a good way. The thing that reminds you why you can never give up. Giannis thought about his own pain. Growing up poor in Athens. Sleeping 3 boys to a bed. Selling trinkets on the street to help his family eat. The fear that no matter how good he got at basketball, it might never be enough to take care of the people he loved. I think I know what mine is, he said softly. Good. But don't tell me what it is. That's between you and the basketball gods. Keep it private. Keep it sacred. And when you need it most, flip that switch and let it transform you. Jordan walked to the free throw line and took another shot. Swish. Perfect form. Like he had been doing it for 40 years. Rule number 3, Jordan said as he retrieved the ball. Never let them see you break. What does that mean? It means that champions aren't people who never feel fear or doubt. Champions are people who feel those things and do what needs to be done anyway. Jordan dribbled the ball slowly between his legs. You know about my flu game, right? Game 5. Of the 1997 finals against Utah? Of course. You were sick, but still scored 38 points. Everyone calls it the flu game, but I wasn't sick with the flu. Giannis looked surprised. What? I had food poisoning. Someone had put something in my pizza the night before. I was throwing up every 20 minutes. I couldn't keep water down. The team doctors wanted me to stay in the hotel. But you played anyway. I played, but not because I was some superhero who didn't feel pain. I felt terrible. Worse than terrible. There were moments during the game when I thought I might pass out on the court. Then why did you do it? Jordan stopped dribbling and looked at Giannis with those intense eyes. Because my teammates needed me. Because my city needed me. Because sometimes being great means doing the impossible when you feel like doing nothing at all. But how? Rule number 3. I never let the other team see how much I was hurting. I never let my teammates see my doubt. I never let myself see my own weakness. I saved the breaking down for later, in private. During the game, I was Michael Jordan. After the game, I could be human. Jordan started walking around the court again, but this time, Giannis walked with him. The biggest mistake young players make is they think they have to feel confident to play confidently. That's backwards. You act confident first, and the feeling follows. You walk tall even when you feel small. You take the big shot even when your hands are shaking. You lead even when you're scared. Fake it till you make it? No. Live it till you become it. There's a difference. Faking is lying. Living is growing into the person you need to be. They walked in silence for a moment, their footsteps echoing in the empty gym. Giannis felt like his brain was trying to process 3 years' worth of information in 30 minutes. Those are the 3 rules, Jordan said finally. Master your mind. Find your switch. Never let them see you break. Every championship I won, every big shot I made, every time I came through in the clutch, it was because of those 3 things. And you've never told anyone else? Never. My coaches knew parts of it. My teammates saw the results. But the complete system? You're the first person I've ever shared it with. Giannis felt the weight of that trust. Why me? Jordan stopped, walking and turned to face him. Because I see myself in you. Not the successful me that everyone remembers. The me that got beat by Detroit. The me that cried in private after losing. The me that wondered if I'd ever be good enough. And you think I can be? I think you can be better than me. But only if you're willing to do the work that nobody sees. The mental work, the emotional work, the work of becoming a champion from the inside out. Jordan picked up the basketball one more time and held it out to Giannis. Take a shot. What? Right here, right now. Take a shot from the free throw line. Giannis took the ball and walked to the line. It felt different in his hands now, heavier somehow, like it carried the weight of everything Jordan had just told him. He went through his normal routine. 3 dribbles. Deep breath. Focus on the rim. Stop, Jordan said. Giannis looked up, confused. You're doing exactly what you always do. Going through the motions. Not thinking, not visualizing, not using your switch, not controlling the moment. Jordan walked over and stood next to him. Try it again. But this time, before you shoot, I want you to see the ball going in. Really see it. Then I want you to think about whatever your championship switch is. Feel that fire in your chest. Then shoot like you're Michael Jordan, who never lets anyone see him break. Giannis took a deep breath and started over. This time, he closed his eyes and saw the ball swishing through the net before he even started his shooting motion. He thought about his family, about the fear of not being good enough to take care of them. He felt that familiar fire start burning in his chest. When he opened his eyes, everything looked different, clearer, more focused. He shot the ball with perfect form. It arced high through the air and dropped through the net without touching the rim. The sound of the swish echoed through the empty gym like applause. Jordan smiled. Spoo! That's the difference between a good player and a champion. A good player shoots the ball. A champion makes the shot before he takes it. Giannis felt something changing inside him. Like a door had opened in his mind that he didn't know existed. This is just the beginning, Jordan said. But there's something else. Something I've never told anyone. And if you're ready to hear it, it will change everything you think you know about basketball. He walked toward the center of the court and turned back to face Giannis. Are you ready for the real secret? Giannis felt his heart pounding so hard he was sure Jordan could hear it across the gym. The 3 rules had already blown his mind, but there was something deeper. Something that Jordan had never shared with anyone? Yes, Giannis said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm ready. Jordan walked back to center court and sat down on the floor, cross-legged like a little kid. It was such a strange sight. The greatest basketball player in history, sitting on a gym floor like he was at summer camp. Sit, Jordan said, patting the floor next to him. Giannis sat down too, feeling awkward with his long legs folded up. The gym floor was cold through his workout shorts, but he didn't care. Whatever Jordan was about to tell him felt more important than being comfortable. In 1999, Jordan began, staring straight ahead at the far wall. I went to see a doctor about some pain in my knees. I thought it was just normal wear and tear from playing basketball for so many years. He paused and took a deep breath, the next words were hard to say. The doctor told me I had early-stage arthritis. Not just a little bit, a lot. He said it would only get worse. He said if I kept playing basketball, I might not be able to walk normally when I got older. Giannis felt his stomach drop. This wasn't what he expected to hear. But that wasn't the worst part, Jordan continued. The worst part was that some mornings, the pain was so bad I couldn't get out of bed. I would lie there for an hour just trying to work up the courage to put my feet on the floor. What did you do? At first, I felt sorry for myself. I thought about quitting basketball forever. I had already retired twice. Maybe this was God's way of telling me it was time to stay retired. Jordan picked up a piece of dust from the gym floor and rolled it between his fingers. But then I got angry. Really angry. Not at God or the arthritis or bad luck. I got angry at the idea that pain could stop me from being who I was meant to be. So you came back anyway? I came back, but not the way everyone thinks. See, I knew I couldn't train the same way anymore. My knees couldn't handle 2-hour practices and jumping drills and all the normal stuff. So I had to find a different way. Jordan looked at Giannis for the first time since he started telling the story. I developed something I called blind faith training. Every morning at 3 a.m. I would go to a gym, usually this one, actually, and practice shooting in complete darkness. In the dark, total darkness, no lights at all. I couldn't see the rim, couldn't see the ball, couldn't see my own hands. I had to shoot purely by feel and muscle memory. Giannis tried to imagine it. Michael Jordan, alone in a dark gym, shooting hundreds of shots he couldn't see. Why would you do that? Because I realized that the biggest moments in basketball happen when you can't see clearly anyway. When the crowd is screaming so loud you can't think. When the pressure is so intense everything feels blurry. When your legs are tired and your vision is fuzzy, and you still have to make the shot that matters most. Jordan stood up and walked to the light switch on the wall. I'm going to show you what I mean. He flipped the switch, and the gym went completely black. Not just dim, black like being inside a cave. Giannis couldn't see his own hand in front of his face. "Where are you?" Giannis called out, suddenly feeling panicked. "Right here." Jordan's voice came from somewhere near the free throw line. "Can you find me?" Giannis stood up carefully and started walking toward the sound of Jordan's voice. He moved slowly, afraid of tripping or walking into something. "This is what real pressure feels like," Jordan said in the darkness. "When you can't see what's coming. When you have to trust something deeper than your eyes." Giannis heard the sound of a basketball bouncing. Jordan was dribbling somewhere in the dark. For 2 years, I did this every single morning. 2 hours in complete darkness. Shooting, dribbling, moving, all by feel. Do you know what happened? What? My shooting percentage actually got better, even with the arthritis, even with the pain. Even though I was 38 years old when most players were retiring, I became more accurate than I had ever been. The bouncing stopped. Giannis heard the sound of a shot being taken, then the perfect swish of a ball going through the net. "How did you make that shot?" Giannis asked, amazed. "The same way I made every important shot in my career. Not with my eyes, with my heart, with my memory." with something deeper than sight. Another shot. Another swish. "Pain is just information," Jordan said in the darkness. "Your body is sending you data about what's happening. Most people let that information scare them. They think pain means stop. But champions learn to read that data differently." How? Pain means pay attention. Pain means this matters. Pain means you're at the edge of what you thought was possible. And now you get to choose who you really are. The lights came back on suddenly, and Giannis saw Jordan standing at the three-point line, holding the basketball. When I came back to play for the Washington Wizards, I was playing with arthritis that should have ended my career. But I was also playing with skills I had developed in the darkness. Skills that no one else had. Skills that only existed because I refused to let pain define my limits. Jordan walked back to where Giannis was standing. That's the real secret. Not just learning to play through pain, but learning to use pain as a teacher. Every time your body hurts, every time your heart breaks, every time you fail, that's not the end of your story. That's information about what you need to work on. Giannis thought about his own pain, the embarrassment of losing to Toronto, the fear that he might never be good enough, the arthritis in his own knees that had started bothering him this season. "So when you feel pain," Jordan continued, "don't ask why me. Ask what now. Don't ask, how do I make it stop? Ask, how do I use this to get better?" Is that how you won those last championships? Every single one. The pain in my knees reminded me that I didn't have unlimited time. That made every game more precious. The arthritis forced me to develop better shooting technique. That made me more accurate. The knowledge that my body was breaking down made me work harder on the mental part of the game. Jordan sat back down on the floor, and Giannis joined him. You know what the doctor told me after I finally retired for good?" "What?" "He said my arthritis hadn't gotten worse. In some ways, it had gotten better. All that movement, all that training, all that refusal to give up, it had actually helped my joints stay healthier longer. So the thing that was supposed to end your career actually extended it?" Exactly. The obstacle became the path. The weakness became the strength. The pain became the teacher. They sat in silence for a moment, both lost in their own thoughts. "There's something else," Jordan said quietly. "Something about why I'm really here, talking to you, in this gym tonight." Giannis looked at him, surprised. "There's more?" "The reason I know so much about using pain as information isn't just because of basketball. It's because of something that happened in my personal life. Something that taught me that the most important games aren't always played on a court." Jordan's expression changed, became softer and sadder. "My father was murdered in 1993, shot in his car on the side of a highway by two strangers who wanted to rob him. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time." Giannis felt his chest tighten. He knew this story from documentaries, but hearing Jordan tell it himself was different. More painful. "The grief almost killed me. I quit basketball for 2 years because I couldn't find a reason to care about games when my father was gone. Every championship after that, every big shot, every moment of greatness, it was all for him." That was your championship switch? One of them. But here's what I learned about pain that I never told anyone. The pain of losing my father never went away. It just changed. Instead of being the pain that stopped me, it became the pain that pushed me. Jordan stood up and walked to his gym bag in the corner. He pulled out a folded piece of paper and brought it back to Giannis. "This is something your father wrote," Jordan said, holding out the paper. Giannis felt like the world had stopped spinning. "What?" "Your father wrote me a letter 2 years ago, before he died. Alex, your agent, helped him find my address. He wanted me to know about his son who was going to be special." Giannis took the paper with shaking hands. He recognized his father's handwriting immediately, the same careful letters his dad used when he wrote notes in Giannis's school notebooks. "He asked me to watch over you if you ever needed guidance. He said, you had the talent to be great, but you might need someone to teach you how to think like a champion." Giannis couldn't speak. His father had reached out to Michael Jordan, had asked him to help. "That's why I'm here," Jordan said softly. "Not because I randomly decided to help a struggling player, because I made a promise to a father who believed his son could change the world." The letter fell from Giannis's hands as tears started streaming down his face. Everything made sense now. The mysterious phone call, the private meeting, the willingness to share secrets Jordan had never told anyone. His father, who he thought had died before seeing him become great, had actually set up the most important conversation of his basketball career. "He would be so proud of you," Jordan said, putting his hand on Giannis's shoulder. "Not because of your basketball skills, but because of who you are as a person." That's what he wrote about most in his letter. How kind you are, how hard you work, how much you love your family. Giannis wiped his eyes and picked up the letter. At the bottom, in his father's careful handwriting, were the words, "Please help my son become the man I know he can be." "The pain of losing him will never go away," Jordan said, "but now you know what to do with that pain. Use it as information. Use it as motivation. Use it to honor his memory by becoming everything he believed you could be." Giannis folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket, right over his heart. "Now," Jordan said, "are you ready to go win some championships?" 3 months later, the world stopped. Not just Giannis's world, everyone's world. It was March 11th, 2020, and the NBA had just shut down because of something called COVID-19. Players were confused, fans were angry, team owners were worried about money. Nobody knew when basketball would come back, or if it would come back at all. Giannis sat in his Milwaukee apartment, watching the news on TV. The same apartment where he had felt so alone after losing to Toronto. But this time, he wasn't sad or angry. This time, he saw something different, an opportunity. While other players complained on social media about the season stopping, Giannis was thinking about Jordan's words. Pain is just information. Obstacles become the path. If everyone else was going to sit around feeling sorry for themselves, he would use this time to get better. He would use this break to become the player Jordan believed he could be. The next morning, Giannis called a construction company. "I want to build a gym in my basement," he told them. "A real gym, with a full court, professional lights, everything." "That's going to be expensive," the contractor said. "I don't care about the money. How fast can you do it?" 2 weeks later, Giannis had his own private basketball court under his house. It wasn't as big as an NBA court, but it was perfect for what he needed to do. Every morning at 4 a.m., just like Jordan had taught him, Giannis would go down to his basement gym. But he didn't just practice shooting. He practiced Jordan's 3 rules. First, he worked on mastering his mind. He would lie on the gym floor with his eyes closed and visualize game situations, but not just the good ones. He imagined missing big shots, falling behind in important games, getting fouled hard by opponents. Then he would practice staying calm, and finding solutions. "See the problem before it happens," he would whisper to himself, repeating Jordan's words, "Be ready for anything." After 30 minutes of mental training, he would work on his championship switch. He would think about his father's letter to Jordan, about growing up poor in Athens, about his brothers depending on him, about all the people who said he wasn't tough enough to win when it mattered. The anger and motivation would build in his chest like a fire. But it wasn't angry anger. It was focused anger, determined anger, the kind of anger that made him want to work harder, not just complain louder. Then came the hardest part, never letting anyone see him break. Some days, Giannis felt frustrated that the season was canceled. Some days, he worried that basketball might never come back. Some days, he missed his teammates and the crowd and the feeling of playing in front of thousands of people. But he never let those feelings control him. Instead, he used them as fuel. "Champions don't get to have bad days," he would tell himself. "They have challenging days that make them stronger." The most important training happened in complete darkness, just like Jordan had shown him. Every morning, after his regular practice, Giannis would turn off all the lights in his basement gym and shoot for an hour. At first, it was terrible. He missed easy shots. He lost the ball. He walked into walls. But slowly, day by day, he got better. His hands learned to feel the perfect shooting motion. His feet learned to find the right spots on the court. His mind learned to trust something deeper than his eyes. After 2 months of this training, something amazing happened. When Giannis turned the lights back on and shot normal baskets, his accuracy was better than it had ever been. His form was smoother. His confidence was stronger. But the biggest change wasn't in his shooting. It was in his thinking. Before, when Giannis faced a difficult situation, his first thought was usually, "I hope this works out." Now, his first thought was, "I know exactly what to do." The mental training had rewired his brain. Instead of hoping for the best, he was preparing for anything. In July 2020, the NBA announced that basketball would restart in Orlando, Florida. All the teams would live in a bubble at Disney World, with no fans, no families, and no distractions. Just pure basketball. Most players were nervous about the bubble. They didn't like being away from home. They didn't like playing without crowds. They complained about the food, the hotels, the rules. Giannis was excited. "This is perfect," he told his teammate Chris Middleton during their first practice in Orlando. "No excuses, no distractions, just us and the game." "You seem different," Chris said, studying his face. "More focused or something?" Giannis smiled but didn't explain. How could he tell his teammate about the secret meetings with Michael Jordan? About the blind faith training? About his father's letter? Some things were too important to share, even with friends. The Milwaukee Bucks were the best team in the EP regular season, just like they had been before the shutdown, but everyone knew the real test would come in the playoffs. That's where Giannis had failed before. That's where people said he wasn't good enough. Their first playoff series was against the Orlando Magic, a team with less talent, but lots of heart. The kind of team that could cause problems if you weren't mentally ready. Game 1 was easy. The Bucks won by 20 points, and Giannis looked unstoppable. Game 2 was also comfortable. Game 3, the same. But Game 4 was different. Orlando came out desperate, knowing they were about to be swept. They played harder than they had all season. They made shots they usually missed. They got rebounds they usually didn't get. By the fourth quarter, the Magic were winning by 15 points. In the timeout, Giannis looked around at his teammates. Some of them looked worried. Some looked frustrated. Some looked like they were already thinking about the next series. This was exactly the situation Jordan had prepared him for. The moment when things went wrong and everyone was watching to see how he would respond. Giannis closed his eyes for just a second and accessed his championship switch. He thought about his father, about Jordan's promise, about that scared kid in Athens who thought he might never be good enough. When he opened his eyes, everything looked different. Clearer, more focused. "Give me the ball," he told his point guard, Eric Bledsoe. For the next 8 minutes, Giannis played basketball like he had never played before. Not just with his body, but with his mind. Every shot was calculated. Every pass was perfect. Every defensive play was exactly where it needed to be. He scored 18 points in those final 8 minutes. But more importantly, he stayed calm. He made smart decisions. He trusted his teammates when they had better shots than him. The old Giannis might have forced bad shots, trying to do everything himself. The new Giannis played like Jordan had taught him, with his brain as much as his talent. With 2 minutes left, the Bucks had taken the lead. With 1 minute left, they were up by 8. With 30 seconds left, the game was over. Final score: Milwaukee 121, Orlando 106. In the locker room after the game, Chris Middleton pulled Giannis aside. "What was that?" he asked. "I've never seen you play like that in a pressure situation. You were so calm, so in control." Giannis thought about Jordan's words. "Never let them see you break." "I just remembered who I'm playing for," Giannis said simply. That night, alone in his hotel room in the Disney bubble, Giannis received a text message from an unknown number. "Saw the game. Now you're starting to understand. Keep going." 23. Giannis smiled and put his phone away. Jordan was watching. Jordan was proud. But more importantly, his father's spirit was watching too. The first test was complete. But Giannis knew this was just the beginning. The real challenges were coming. The teams that had beaten him before. The pressure that had broken him in the past. But now he had weapons he didn't have before. Mental weapons. Emotional weapons. The kind of weapons that champions used when everything was on the line. He was ready for whatever came next. The scared kid from Athens was gone. In his place was someone new, someone who had learned the secrets of greatness from the greatest player who ever lived. Someone who was finally ready to become a champion. The Orlando Magic series ended exactly how everyone expected. Milwaukee won 4-1, but something had changed. During that fourth game comeback, something that Giannis's teammates, coaches, and even the media noticed. "He's different," ESPN analyst Stephen A. Smith said on TV the next morning. "I can't put my finger on it, but there's something new about Giannis. He's calmer under pressure, more controlled." Giannis watched the highlights from his hotel room and smiled. If only Stephen A. knew about those dark mornings in the basement gym, learning to shoot without seeing the rim. The second round would be different, much different. The Miami Heat were waiting, the same team that would eventually reach the NBA Finals, led by Jimmy Butler, a player known for his mental toughness and clutch performance. The Heat played smart, physical basketball. They made other teams beat themselves with bad decisions and frustrated emotions. Perfect opponents to test everything Jordan had taught him. "This is where we find out if you're really ready," Giannis whispered to himself before Game 1. He thought about Jordan's words, "The biggest moments happen when you can't see clearly anyway." Game 1 was a battle. Miami came out hitting every shot, playing with the confidence of a team that knew they could beat anyone. But Giannis stayed calm. When the Heat went on a 12-0 run in the second quarter, he didn't panic. He didn't force shots. He trusted his teammates and waited for his opportunities. Milwaukee won 115-104. Giannis had 30 points, but more importantly, he had 15 assists. He was playing like a leader, not just a scorer. Game 2 was closer. The Heat adjusted their defense, throwing double teams and traps at Giannis whenever he touched the ball. The old Giannis might have gotten frustrated and tried to power through the defense. Instead, he remembered Jordan's mental training. He had visualized this exact situation dozens of times in his basement gym. Two defenders coming at him, teammates, getting open because of the attention he was drawing. He found Chris Middleton for 3 open three-pointers. He set perfect screens for Brook Lopez to score inside. He even got his point guard, Eric Bledsoe, some easy baskets by drawing the defense. Away, Milwaukee won again, 111-108. But Game 3 was when everything changed. Playing in Miami for the first time in the bubble, the Heat came out desperate. They knew if they lost, going down 3-0 would probably end their season. They played with an intensity that reminded Giannis of the Toronto series from last year, the series that had crushed his confidence and led to that lonely night in his Milwaukee apartment. By halftime, Miami was winning 68-52. They were hitting impossible shots. They were getting every loose ball. They were playing like a team that believed they couldn't lose. In the locker room, Giannis could see his teammates starting to doubt. The same look he had seen in their eyes against Toronto. The look that said, "Here we go again." This was his championship switch moment. He stood up in front of the whole team and spoke quietly, but everyone heard every word. Last year, when we were losing like this, I used to think about how embarrassed I felt, how everyone was going to say we choked again, how I wasn't good enough to lead this team. His teammates looked at him, surprised. Giannis never talked about his emotions like this, but someone taught me that those thoughts are just noise. What matters is what we do in the next 24 minutes, not what happened before, not what people will say tomorrow, just the next 24 minutes. He looked each player in the eyes. I'm going to play the next half like my Father is watching from heaven. Like every kid in Milwaukee who believes in us is counting on us. Like this is the most important 24 minutes of my life. When they took the court for the third quarter, something was different about the entire team. Not just Giannis, but everyone. They played with a calm intensity that the Heat weren't ready for. Giannis scored 16 points in the third quarter, but he also had 6 assists and 4 rebounds. He was everywhere, but he was also under control. When Miami made a run, he made the right play to stop it. When his team needed a basket, he found the perfect shot. But the real test came in the fourth quarter. With 8 minutes left, Giannis drove to the basket hard and landed awkwardly on his right ankle. The pain shot up his leg. Like lightning, he limped to the sideline and the team doctors looked worried. "How bad is it?" Coach Mike Budenholzer asked. Giannis thought about Jordan's arthritis story, about playing through pain that should have ended his career, about using pain as information instead of an excuse. "I'm good," Giannis said, and walked back onto the Ike court. For the next 8 minutes, he played some of the smartest basketball of his life. He couldn't run as fast or jump as high because of the ankle, so he used his brain more. He set better screens. He made quicker passes. He found easier shots for himself and his teammates. With 2 minutes left, Milwaukee had taken the lead, 98-95. With 1 minute left, they were up 103-98. With 30 seconds left, Jimmy Butler hit a three-pointer to make it 103-101, 20 seconds on the clock. Milwaukee's ball. This was the moment that would define the series, maybe the season. Giannis brought the ball up court slowly, feeling the pain in his ankle with every step. The crowd noise from the Heat bench was loud, but he barely heard it. Everything felt quiet and focused, like he was back in his basement gym shooting in the dark. He could see the double team coming before the defenders even moved. He could feel where his teammates were without looking. Most importantly, he could feel that championship switch burning in his chest. His father's love, Jordan's wisdom, all those mornings of preparation. Instead of forcing a difficult shot, he made a perfect pass to Chris Middleton in the corner. Middleton's three-pointer swished through the net with 12 seconds left. 6, 101. Game over. As the final buzzer sounded, Giannis didn't celebrate like he usually did. He just pointed up toward the ceiling, thinking about his father, thinking about Jordan, thinking about that promise made in a Chicago gym 6 months ago. In the locker room, reporters asked him about playing through the ankle injury. Someone once told me that champions don't get to have bad days, Giannis said. They just have challenging days that make them stronger. That night, his phone buzzed with another text from Jordan. Watched the whole game. Your father would be proud. That's how champions respond to adversity. Keep going. 23. But the best message came from an unexpected source. His brother Thanasis, who was also on the team, pulled him aside after dinner. I don't know what happened to you during the break, Thanasis said, but you're not the same player who lost to Toronto. You're not even the same person. You're calmer, stronger, more confident. I just learned how to think differently, Giannis said. Well, keep thinking that way, because I've never seen you play like that under pressure. When your ankle got hurt and we needed you most, you found a way to make everyone better. That's what great players do. As Giannis went to sleep that night, he realized something important. The wall that had stopped him for so many years, the mental barrier that made him panic in big moments, was finally broken. He wasn't just playing basketball anymore. He was playing with purpose, with clarity, with the kind of mental strength that only came from learning how to use pain as fuel instead of letting it become fear. The scared kid from Athens was completely gone now. In his place was someone who had learned the deepest secrets of greatness from the greatest player who ever lived. Someone who was ready for whatever came next. The Miami Heat series would go 6 games, but Giannis already knew how it would end. Not because winning was guaranteed, but because he was finally ready to do whatever it took to win. The championship wasn't just a dream anymore, it was a plan. And now he had all the tools he needed to make it happen. The Milwaukee Bucks won the Miami Heat series 4-2, but those 2 losses taught Giannis more than all the victories combined. Each time Miami fought back, each time Jimmy Butler made an impossible shot, each time the pressure got heavier, Giannis learned something new about his own mind. Now came the ultimate test, the Eastern Conference Finals. The Boston Celtics were waiting. A team built on basketball intelligence and mental toughness. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were young, hungry players who reminded everyone of a younger Michael Jordan. Smooth, confident, and absolutely fearless. In big moments. This is it, Giannis told himself before Game 1. This is what Jordan was preparing me for. The series started exactly like Jordan had taught him to visualize, with problems. Game 1, Boston won 112-96. Tatum scored 30 points and made it look easy. The Celtics moved the ball perfectly, got every loose rebound, and played like a team that knew they belonged in the finals. After the game, reporters asked Giannis if he was worried about falling behind 1-0. No, he said simply. This is just information. We learned what we need to work on. The old Giannis might have gotten angry after a loss like that. He might have complained about the referees or his teammates or bad luck. But Jordan's voice was clear in his head. Pain is just information. Use it to get better. Game 2. Milwaukee fought back and won 125-112. Giannis had 38 points and 11 rebounds, but more importantly, he stayed calm when Boston made their runs. When the Celtics went on a 10-0 streak in the third quarter, he didn't panic. He called timeout, gathered his teammates, and made adjustments. That's what leaders do, he thought. They solve problems instead of creating them. Game 3. Boston won again, 101-97. A close, grinding game that came down to the final minute. Jaylen Brown hit a three-pointer with 40 seconds left. It felt like a dagger to the heart. But as Giannis walked off the court, he wasn't devastated, like he would have been a year ago. Instead, he was analyzing. What had worked? What hadn't? What could they do better in Game 4? Game 4. Milwaukee won 113-101. Giannis scored 35 points, but the real victory was how he handled the fourth quarter. When Boston cut the lead to 3 points with 5 minutes left, Giannis accessed his championship switch. He thought about his father's letter to Jordan, about all those mornings training in the dark, about the promise he had made to himself in that Chicago gym. The fire burned in his chest, but it was controlled fire, focused fire. He scored 12 points in the final 5 minutes, but he also got 4 assists. He was playing like Jordan had taught him, with his brain as much as his talent. Games 5 and 6 were split, with each team winning at home. The series was tied 3-3, heading to Game 7 in Boston. Game 7. The biggest game of Giannis's career. The night before the game, he couldn't sleep. Not because he was nervous, but because his mind was so focused it felt like a laser beam. He kept visualizing different scenarios, different problems that might come up, different ways to respond. Master your mind before you master your body, he whispered to himself, repeating Jordan's first rule. At 3 a.m. he got out of bed and went to the hotel fitness center. He found a basketball and started shooting in the dim light, practicing the blind faith training that Jordan had taught him. Even with limited visibility, his shots felt perfect. His form was smooth, his confidence was unshakable. Game 7 started. Like a war. Both teams played with desperate intensity. Every possession mattered. Every shot felt huge. The crowd at TD Garden was so loud that players couldn't hear their own coaches calling plays. But Giannis felt calm in the chaos. All those months of mental training had prepared him for exactly this moment, when everything was loud and confusing and you had to trust something deeper than your senses. By halftime, the Celtics led 58-52. Not a big deficit, but enough to make his teammates look worried. In the locker room, Coach Budenholzer was drawing up new plays on the whiteboard, trying to find solutions. Giannis sat quietly in his locker, eyes closed, accessing his championship switch. He thought about his father watching from heaven. He thought about Jordan's promise. He thought about all the people back in Milwaukee who were counting on him. But mostly, he thought about that scared kid in Athens who used to dream about moments like this. "This is for you, Dad," he whispered. "This is for everyone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." The third quarter was even. Both teams made big shots. Both teams made crucial stops. With 15 minutes left in the season, the IDRAD score was tied 79-79. Then came the fourth quarter, the mental battle that would decide everything. Boston scored first, a three-pointer by Tatum that sent the crowd into a frenzy. The lead grew to 6 points, then 8 points. With 5 minutes left, The Celtics were ahead, 94-86. This was the moment Jordan had prepared him for. The moment when champions are born or broken. Giannis called timeout and gathered his teammates in a circle. "Look at me," he said calmly. "We're exactly where we're supposed to be. This is what champions do. They find a way when there is no way." He thought about Jordan's Game 5 against Utah, the food poisoning game, playing when everything in his body wanted to quit, but his mind refused to surrender. "Give me the ball," Giannis told his point guard, "and trust me." For the next 3 minutes, Giannis played basketball like he had never played before. Not just with his body, but with his soul. Every decision was perfect. Every movement had purpose. He scored on a drive to the basket. 94-88. He stole the ball from Tatum and scored again. 94-90. He found Chris Middleton for a three-pointer. 94-93. With 2 minutes left, he blocked Jaylen Brown's shot at one end and scored at the other end. Milwaukee led 95-94. The crowd was stunned into silence. The momentum had completely shifted. Boston called timeout, but Giannis could see it in their eyes. The doubt was creeping in. They were starting to think about what would happen if they lost, instead of focusing on what they needed to do to win. With 90 seconds left, Tatum missed a three-pointer. Giannis got the rebound and was fouled hard by Marcus Smart. As he walked to the free throw line, the crowd was screaming at him, trying to break his concentration. But he was back in his basement gym, shooting in complete darkness. The crowd, noise faded away. The pressure disappeared. There was only him, the basket, and everything Jordan had taught him. "Never let them see you break," he whispered. Swish. First free throw, swish. Second free throw. 7-94, Milwaukee. With 45 seconds left, Boston had the ball and a chance to tie. This was when defense mattered most. This was when champions proved they could stop great players when everything was on the line. Giannis switched onto Tatum and looked into his eyes. He saw a great player, a future superstar, but also a young man who wasn't quite ready for this moment yet. Tatum drove to the basket, but Giannis was ready. He had visualized this exact play hundreds of times. He stayed in perfect position, forced Tatum into a difficult shot, and got the rebound when it missed. With 16 seconds left, Giannis was fouled again. 2 more free throws to ice the game. As he stood at the line, he could feel his father's presence. He could hear Jordan's voice. He could see that scared kid from Athens who had grown into a man ready for anything. Swish. 98-94, swish. 99-94, game over. Series over. The Milwaukee Bucks were going to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1974. As confetti fell from the ceiling and his teammates celebrated around him, Giannis felt something he had never felt before. Not relief or excitement, but a deep sense of completion. Like he had finally become the person he was always meant to be. In the interview after the game, a reporter asked him what had changed in the fourth quarter. "I remembered who I was playing for," Giannis said. "And I remembered that champions don't get to make excuses. They just find a way to win." That night, his phone rang. It was Jordan. "Congratulations," Jordan said. "You just passed the biggest test of your career. But you know what? What? The finals will be even harder. Are you ready?" Giannis looked around his hotel room at his teammates celebrating. At the Eastern Conference Championship trophy sitting on the table. At the reflection of a champion staring back at him from the mirror. "Yes," he said, "I'm ready for anything." And for the first time in his life, he really meant it. The NBA Finals, the biggest stage in basketball, the place where legends are born and dreams either come true or die forever. The Phoenix Suns were waiting for Milwaukee in the finals, led by Chris Paul, one of the smartest players in NBA history, and Devin Booker, a young scorer who could get hot at any moment. This was a Suns team that had been patient, that had built their chemistry over years, and that believed this was their time. Giannis knew the story everyone would tell. The Suns had more experience. Chris Paul was a better leader. Phoenix had been here before, even if it was a long time ago. Milwaukee was just happy to be in the finals. But sitting in his hotel room in Phoenix before Game 1, Giannis felt something different than what the experts expected. He didn't feel nervous or overwhelmed. He felt ready. "This is what we trained for," he said to himself, thinking about all those dark mornings in his basement gym. "This is why Jordan taught me those rules." Game 1 was a statement game for Phoenix. They came out confident and sharp, moving the ball perfectly and hitting every shot they needed. Chris Paul looked like a conductor leading an orchestra, setting up his teammates for easy baskets and controlling the tempo of the game. The Suns won 118-105, and after the game, the media asked all the familiar questions. Are you worried about being down 1-0? Do you think the moment is too big for your team? How do you respond to people saying Phoenix is just more experienced? Giannis answered each question calmly and honestly. We learned what we need to work on. Game 2 will be different. But inside, he was doing what Jordan had taught him. He was treating the loss as information, not failure. Phoenix liked to push the tempo and get easy baskets in transition. They wanted to make the game fast and chaotic. Slow it down, Giannis told himself. Make them play our pace. Game 2 was even worse. The Suns won 118-108, and this time it wasn't even close. Devin Booker scored 31 points and looked unstoppable. Chris Paul had 23 points and 8 assists and barely broke a sweat doing it. After the game, the questions got harder. Are you starting to feel the pressure? Do you think this series might be over already? What can you do differently when you're down 2-0? The old Giannis might have gotten angry at these questions. He might have made excuses or blamed his teammates or the referees. Instead, he thought about Jordan's words from that night in Chicago. Champions don't get to make excuses. They just find solutions. We're going home to Milwaukee, Giannis told the reporters. Our fans have been waiting 50 years for this. We're not going to let them down. The flight back to Milwaukee was quiet. Some of his teammates looked worried. Some looked frustrated. Some looked like they were already thinking about vacation plans. But Giannis spent the flight doing mental training. He visualized Game 3 scenarios. He imagined Phoenix making runs and how he would respond. He thought about his championship switch and felt that familiar fire building in his chest. Most importantly, he remembered something Jordan had told him about pressure. The biggest moments don't feel bigger when you're ready for them. They feel normal. They feel like what you've been preparing for your whole life. Game 3 in Milwaukee was different from the first minute. The crowd was louder than Giannis had ever heard. Fans were wearing shirts that said, "Fear the Deer" and "Bucks in 6." The energy in the arena felt like electricity, but more than the ETE crowd. Something was different about Giannis himself. In the first quarter, when Phoenix jumped out to an early lead, he didn't panic. He stayed calm and made the right plays. When Devin Booker hit 2 3-pointers in a row, Giannis responded by finding Chris Middleton for an easy basket. Trust your teammates, he reminded himself. Make everyone better. By halftime, Milwaukee had taken control, leading 60-45. But Giannis knew the Suns would make a run. Champions always did. The question was how he would respond when they did. The run came in the third quarter. Phoenix outscored Milwaukee 35-25 and cut the lead to 85-80 going into the fourth quarter. The crowd was getting nervous. You could feel the doubt starting to creep into the building. This was the moment Jordan had prepared him for. The moment when everything was on the line and champions had to prove who they really were. Giannis gathered his teammates before the fourth quarter started. "This is what we dreamed about as kids," he said quietly. "Playing in the finals, in front of our home crowd, with a chance to win a championship. Don't think about what happens if we lose. Think about what happens when we win." The fourth quarter became legendary, not because of any single play, but because of how Giannis controlled every moment. When Phoenix scored, he answered. When they made stops, he found a way to score anyway. When they tried to speed up the game, he slowed it down. When they tried to slow it down, he pushed the pace. With 5 minutes left, Milwaukee led 195. With 3 minutes left, it was 105-98. With 1 minute left, 110-101. But the most important moment came with 30 seconds left. Phoenix had the ball, down 8 points, needing a miracle. Chris Paul brought the ball up court, looking for a three-pointer that could change everything. Giannis switched onto Chris Paul and looked into his eyes. He saw a great player, a future Hall of Famer, but also a player who was running out of time and starting to feel desperate. Paul tried to drive to the basket, but Giannis was ready. He had visualized this exact play. He stayed in perfect position, forced Paul into a difficult shot, and when it missed, he grabbed the rebound. Game over. Milwaukee 120, Phoenix 100. In the locker room celebration, Giannis was asked what had changed from the first two games. "We remembered who we are," he said. "We remembered that we've been through everything together. We remembered that our city has been waiting for this for 50 years. But the real answer was simpler. He had finally become the player Jordan knew he could be. Not just physically talented, but mentally strong. Not just individually great, but a leader who made everyone around him better." Game 4 was even more dominant. Milwaukee won 109-103, and Giannis had 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists. But the most important stat was 0, the number of times he let pressure affect his decision-making. After the game, reporters asked him about the momentum shift in the series. "Someone once told me that champions don't celebrate until the job is finished," Giannis said. "We're not finished yet." That night, he received a text from Jordan that was different from all the others. "Watched both games. You're not just playing basketball anymore. You're teaching your teammates how to think like champions. Your father would be proud. 2 more wins. 23. 2 more wins." It sounded so simple. But Giannis knew the hardest part was still coming. Phoenix wouldn't quit. Chris Paul and Devin Booker were too good, too proud to go down without a fight. But as he lay in his hotel bed that night, Giannis felt something he had never felt before in his basketball career. He felt ready for whatever came next. Not hoping for the best, but prepared for anything. The scared kid from Athens was completely gone now. In his place was a man who had learned the deepest secrets of greatness from the greatest player who ever lived. A man who understood that championships weren't won by the most talented team, but by the team that stayed mentally strong when everything was falling apart. A man who was 2 wins away from fulfilling his father's dreams and Jordan's prophecy. Man who was finally ready to become a champion. Game 5 back in Phoenix. The Suns' last chance to play at home. The crowd was desperate, loud, and ready to do anything to help their team stay alive. Before the game, Giannis sat in the visiting locker room and closed his eyes. He thought about that night in the Chicago gym when Jordan had first shared his secrets. It felt like a lifetime ago, but also like yesterday. "Master your mind," he whispered to himself. "Find your switch. Never let them see you break." The game started like a war. Phoenix came out with everything they had. Chris Paul was making impossible shots. Devin Booker was attacking the rim like his life depended on it. The crowd was so loud that the floor was shaking. But Giannis felt calm in the storm. All those months of mental training had prepared him for exactly this: chaos that looked scary, but was really just another basketball game. By halftime, the Suns led 63-58, close enough to keep hope alive for both teams. In the locker room, Coach Budenholzer was drawing up new plays and making adjustments. But Giannis was doing something different. He was accessing his championship switch. He thought about his father's letter to Jordan, about growing up poor in Athens, about all the people who said he wasn't tough enough to win when it mattered. Most importantly, he thought about the promise he had made to himself in that dark gym, that he would never let fear stop him from becoming who he was meant to be. Third quarter was even. Both teams made big plays. Both teams made mistakes. With 15 minutes left in the season, the score was tied 84-84. Then came the fourth quarter, the moment that would define everything. Phoenix scored first, a three-pointer by Booker that sent the crowd into a frenzy. Then another three by Chris Paul. Suddenly, the Suns led 90-84 with 10 minutes left. This was the exact situation Jordan had prepared him for. The moment when champions are born or broken. When everything you've learned gets tested by pressure that feels impossible to handle. Giannis called timeout and gathered his teammates. "Look around," he said calmly. "This is what we've been working for our whole lives. This noise, this pressure, this feeling like the whole world is watching. This is what makes winning a championship special." He looked each player in the eyes. "I'm not going to let us lose, not tonight, not ever. But I need you to trust me and play like champions." For the next 6 minutes, Giannis played basketball like he had been possessed by the spirit of greatness itself. Every decision was perfect. Every movement had purpose. Every play was exactly what the team needed. He scored on a drive to the basket. 90-86, he stole the ball from Chris Paul and found Middleton for a three. 90-89, he blocked Devin Booker's shot and scored on the other end. 91-90 Milwaukee. The crowd was getting nervous. You could feel the energy shifting. Phoenix was starting to think about what would happen if they lost, instead of focusing on what they needed to do to win. With 4 minutes left, Giannis drove hard to the basket and landed awkwardly on his right knee. The same knee that had been bothering him all season. The pain shot through his leg like lightning, and for a moment, he couldn't put weight on it. The crowd cheered, thinking he might be seriously hurt. His teammates looked worried. The team doctors ran onto the court. But Giannis thought about Jordan's arthritis story, about playing through pain that should have ended his career, about using pain as information instead of an excuse. "I'm fine," he told the doctors and limped back onto the court. For the next 4 minutes, he played some of the smartest basketball of his life. He couldn't run as fast or jump as high because of the knee, so he used his brain more. He set perfect screens. He made quicker passes. He found easier shots for himself and his teammates. But the most important play came with 1 minute and 14 seconds left. Phoenix had the ball, down 103-101, needing a basket to tie or take the lead. This was their moment, their chance to save their season and send the series back to Milwaukee for Game 6. Chris Paul brought the ball up court slowly, looking for the perfect play. The crowd was on its feet, screaming so loud that players couldn't hear their own thoughts. Giannis switched onto Paul and looked into his eyes. He saw a great player, a future Hall of Famer, but also a player who was feeling the weight of a career's worth of championship dreams. Paul tried to drive to the basket, but Giannis was ready. He had visualized this exact moment hundreds of times. He stayed in perfect position, forced Paul into a difficult shot, and when it missed, he grabbed the rebound with one hand while protecting it with his body. Seconds left. Milwaukee's ball. A chance to put the game away. Instead of calling timeout, Giannis brought the ball up court himself. His knee was throbbing with every step, but his mind was completely clear. He could see the double team coming before the defenders even moved. He could feel where his teammates were without looking. With 18 seconds left, he drove toward the basket, drawing 3 defenders. At the last second, he made a perfect pass to Brook Lopez under the rim. Easy basket. 105-101. Game over. Series over. As the final buzzer sounded, something extraordinary happened. Instead of celebrating wildly like he usually did, Giannis just stood in the middle of the court and pointed up toward the ceiling. He was thinking about his father, about Jordan, about that scared kid from Athens who had dreamed of moments like this but never believed they were really possible. The confetti fell like snow. His teammates rushed toward him. The crowd in Phoenix sat in stunned silence while the small section of Milwaukee fans celebrated like their city had just won the lottery. But Giannis felt something deeper than excitement. He felt complete. Like every struggle, every failure, every moment of doubt had been leading to this exact second. In the locker room, reporters asked him about playing through the knee injury. "Someone once taught me that pain is just information," Giannis said. "My knee was telling me to be smart, not to be scared. So I played smart." What does it mean to win the championship for Milwaukee? It means everything. This city waited 50 Parisix. Years. These fans never stopped believing. My teammates never stopped fighting. We did this together. But the question that hit him deepest came from a young reporter who looked like she was barely out of college. What would you say to kids who are watching this and dreaming of their own championships? Giannis thought about himself at that age, selling trinkets on the streets of Athens, sleeping 3 boys to a bed, watching NBA highlights on a tiny TV, and wondering if dreams like that were only for other people. "I would tell them that greatness isn't about being perfect," he said. "It's about getting back up every time you fall down. It's about learning from every mistake. It's about never letting anyone tell you that your dreams are too big." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "And I would tell them that sometimes, when you need help the most, help comes from places you never expected. Sometimes the greatest players in history believe in you before you believe in yourself." That night, his phone rang. It was Jordan. "Congratulations, champion," Jordan said, and Giannis could hear the smile in his voice. "How does it feel?" "It feels like everything you said it would. Like all the pain was worth it. Like I finally became the person my father raised me to be." "You did more than that. You became the person your father dreamed you could be. And now you get to help other people do the same thing." As Giannis hung up the phone and looked around at his teammates still celebrating, he realized that Jordan was right. This wasn't just the end of his journey to becoming a champion, it was the beginning of something even bigger. 3 days after winning the championship, Giannis was still in a dream. The trophy sat on his kitchen table in Milwaukee, catching the morning sunlight like it was made of pure gold. His phone had been ringing non-stop with congratulations from friends, family, and people he hadn't heard from in years. But the call that came Tuesday morning was different. "Hello, champion," Jordan's voice said, but there was something new in it. A lightness, like he was about to share a secret that had been weighing on him for a long time. "Michael," Giannis said, still not quite believing he could call his childhood hero by his first name. "Thank you again for everything. I couldn't have done this without what you taught me." "About that," Jordan said, and Giannis could hear him chuckling. "I think it's time I told you the whole truth about that night we met in Chicago." Giannis sat down at his kitchen table, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, our meeting wasn't as random as you thought. In fact, it wasn't random at all." "I don't understand." Jordan took a deep breath. "Do you remember that letter I showed you? The one your father wrote to me?" "Of course. It changed everything. For me." "Well, there's more to that story. A lot more." Giannis felt his heart start beating faster. "What kind of more?" "Your father didn't just write me one letter, Giannis. He wrote me 3 letters over 2 years. The first one came in 2017, right after you had that great season but lost in the first round of the playoffs." Giannis remembered that loss. It had hurt, but not like the Toronto loss 2 years later. What did that first letter say? It said that his son was the most talented basketball player he had ever seen, but he was worried you were too kind-hearted to handle the mental pressure that comes with greatness. He said you needed someone to teach you how to think like a champion. Jordan paused, and Giannis could hear papers rustling, like he was looking at the actual letters. The second letter came in 2018, after you won your first MVP award. Your father was proud, but he was also concerned. He said the award was going to bring more pressure, more expectations, and he wasn't sure you were mentally ready for what was coming. "He was right," Giannis said quietly. "That pressure almost broke me." "But the third letter," Jordan continued, "that's the one that really got my attention. It came in early 2019, just a few months before your father died." Giannis felt his throat tighten. His father had been sick then, fighting the heart condition that would eventually take his life. "In that third letter, your father made me promise something. He said he could feel his time running short, and he was afraid he wouldn't be there to help you through the biggest challenges of your career. He asked me to watch over you, and if you ever hit rock bottom, to step in and help." "So you were watching me the whole time?" "From a distance, yes. I was at that Toronto series, sitting in a private box where you couldn't see me. I watched you struggle with that loss. I saw how it affected you, and I knew it was time to honor the promise I made to your father." Giannis was speechless. His father, who he thought had died before seeing him become great, had actually arranged the most important meeting of his basketball career. "But here's the part that might surprise you the most," Jordan said. "That night in the gym in Chicago, I wasn't just teaching you my secrets. I was following a very specific plan that your father had written out for me." "What do you mean?" "Your father knew you better than anyone. He knew exactly what you would need to hear, and when you would need to hear it. Those 3 rules I taught you, your father suggested them in his letters. The mental training, the championship switch, the idea of never letting them see you break. He knew those were the exact things you needed to work on." Giannis felt like the room was spinning. "Are you saying my father basically designed my mental training?" "I'm saying your father was the wisest basketball mind I've ever encountered, and he never played professional basketball a day in his life. He studied you like a scientist studies a specimen. He knew your strengths, your weaknesses, and exactly what it would take to help you reach your potential. Jordan's voice got softer, more emotional. Those weren't my secrets I shared with you, Giannis. They were your father's insights, delivered through me. I was just the messenger. Giannis started crying. Not sad tears, but tears of amazement and gratitude. Everything made sense now. Why Jordan had cared so much about helping him. Why the advice had felt so personal, so perfectly suited to his exact needs. "There's one more thing," Jordan said. "Something I've been saving for after you won your first championship." "What?" "Your father wrote me a fourth letter. He asked me to only give it to you after you had proven to yourself that you could win the biggest games. He said you would need to hear these words as a champion, not as someone still chasing a championship." "What does it say?" "I'm not going to read it to you over the phone. This is something you need to see in person. Can you meet me in Chicago tomorrow?" "Of course. Same place. Kenwood Academy. 8 p.m. But this time, bring your championship trophy." The next evening, Giannis walked into that same dark gym carrying his finals MVP trophy. Jordan was waiting under the same spotlight, but this time he wasn't alone. A woman who looked like she was in her 70s stood next to him. "Giannis," Jordan said, "I'd like you to meet Mrs. Washington. She was married to the security guard who used to let me practice here when I was a kid. She's been keeping something safe for me." Mrs. Washington smiled and handed Giannis an envelope. His name was written on the front in his father's careful handwriting. "Your father asked Michael to make sure this reached you when the time was right," she said. "He said it would only make sense after you understood who you really were." Giannis opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a letter written in Greek, his father's native language. But at the bottom, in English, were the words that would change his life forever. "My son, if you are reading this, it means you have become the champion I always knew you could be. But more importantly, it means you have learned that greatness isn't about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you help others achieve." Michael Jordan became great by pushing himself to be better than everyone else. You became great by learning to make everyone else better. That is your gift. That is your purpose. Your championships will be forgotten someday. Records will be broken. Trophies will gather dust. But the people you inspire, the young players you mentor, the children who see you and believe in their own dreams, that legacy will live forever. I never got to see you win a championship, but I got to see something better. I got to see you become a man who uses his greatness to lift others up. That makes me prouder than any trophy ever could. Your basketball career is just beginning. But your real work, helping others believe in themselves, the way Michael believed in you, that work will define who you really are. Make me proud, my son, not by winning games, but by changing lives. With all my love, your father. Giannis folded the letter carefully and put it in his jacket pocket, right over his heart. He planned all of this, Giannis said, looking at Jordan with new understanding. The training, the meeting, even this moment, right now. Your father understood something that took me years to learn, Jordan said. Individual greatness is just the beginning. Real greatness is what you do with that platform to help others. So, what happens now? Jordan smiled. Now you start paying it forward. Somewhere out there is a young player who's struggling with doubt, just like you were. Someone who needs to learn how to think like a champion. Your job is to find them and help them the way I helped you. How will I know who needs help? Trust me, Jordan said. When the time is right, you'll know. As Giannis walked out of the Eton gym that night, carrying his trophy and his father's final letter, he realized that winning the championship hadn't been the end of his journey. It had been his graduation. His father and Jordan had prepared him not just to be a champion, but to create other champions. The scared kid from Athens was gone forever. In his place was a man who understood that the greatest victory wasn't winning for yourself. It was helping others discover they could win too. His father's love hadn't ended when he died. It had just transformed into something bigger, something that would touch lives Giannis hadn't even met yet. The circle was complete, but it was also just beginning. And somewhere, Charles Antetokounmpo was smiling, knowing that his son had finally understood the most important lesson of all. True champions aren't made by winning games. They're made by changing lives. 6 months later, February 2022, the Milwaukee Bucks were defending NBA champions, and Giannis had become everything the basketball world expected: the best player on the planet, a 2-time MVP, and the face of the league. But the most important change wasn't visible in his statistics or trophies. It was in how he carried himself, how he talked to young players, how he used every interview, every appearance, every moment in the spotlight to plant seeds of belief in others. The Charles Antetokounmpo Foundation was now helping immigrant families across Milwaukee, providing basketball courts, educational programs, and mentorship opportunities. But more than the money or the facilities, Giannis was personally involved in ways that surprised everyone. Every Tuesday morning, he would visit different schools in Milwaukee, not for photo opportunities or publicity events, but to sit with kids who reminded him of himself, the ones who looked like they carried the weight of the world on their young shoulders. On this particular Tuesday, he was at Lincoln Elementary School on the city's south side. The kids were mostly Latino and African American, many from families who had come to America searching for better opportunities. After talking to the whole school about following dreams and working hard, a small hand went up in the back of the auditorium. "My name is Marcus," the boy said when Giannis called on him. "I want to play basketball like you, but my dad says I'm too small, and we don't have money for camps or coaches." Giannis looked at the boy, maybe 10 years old, wearing a Bucks jersey that was too big for him, with eyes that held both hope and doubt in equal measure. Something about Marcus reminded him of himself at that age, when basketball felt like a dream that belonged to other people. "Marcus, can you stay after? I want to talk to you." When the assembly ended and the other kids went back to class, Giannis sat on the gymnasium floor with Marcus, just like Jordan had done with him in that Chicago gym. "Tell me about basketball," Giannis said. "Do you love playing?" "More than anything, but I'm the shortest kid on my team, and I miss shots sometimes, and my coach says I need to get stronger." Giannis smiled. This was exactly what his father had prepared him for, even if Charles had never said it directly. This was why Jordan had taught him those lessons, not just to win championships, but to pass on the wisdom to the next generation. "Marcus, let me tell you something that the greatest basketball player in history once told me. Champions aren't made by being the tallest, or the strongest, or the fastest. They're made by thinking differently than everyone else." "What do you mean?" "Most kids your age think basketball is about their body, how high they can jump, how fast they can run. But the real game happens up here," Giannis said, tapping his temple. "In your mind." For the next 30 minutes, Giannis taught Marcus the same lessons Jordan had taught him. He simplified them for a 10-year-old, but the core ideas were the same. First rule: master your mind before you master your body. Every night before you go to sleep, close your eyes and imagine yourself making shots, making good passes, playing great defense. Train your brain just like you train your muscles. Marcus nodded eagerly, hanging on every word. Second rule: find your championship switch. Think about the reason you love basketball so much that you'd practice even when it's raining outside. When the game gets hard, remember that feeling and let it make you stronger. What's my championship switch? Only you can decide that. But for me, it was remembering my family and wanting to make them proud. What makes you want to work harder? Marcus thought for a moment. My little sister. She thinks I'm the coolest person in the world because I play basketball. I want to show her that dreams can come true. Giannis felt his chest tighten. This kid understood it already. Perfect. That's your championship switch. Every time you feel like giving up, think about your sister watching you play and believing in you. What's the third rule? Never let them see you break. Champions feel scared and worried just like everyone else. But they do what needs to be done anyway. When you miss a shot, you keep shooting. When someone says you're too small, you keep working. When things get hard, you keep believing. Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing everything. Did someone teach you these rules when you were my age? Giannis thought about his father's letters, about Jordan's late-night teachings, about the chain of wisdom that had led to this moment. Yes, and now I'm teaching them to you. But here's the most important part. Someday, when you're older, you need to teach them to someone else. That's how champions are really made. Not by keeping secrets, but by sharing them. A month later, Giannis was playing against the Chicago Bulls at the United Center. During warm-ups, he spotted a familiar figure sitting courtside. Michael Jordan, now 59 years old, wearing a simple gray suit and watching the players with the same intense focus he'd had as a competitor. At halftime, Giannis walked over to Jordan's seat. "How's the mentoring going?" Jordan asked quietly. "Better than I expected. I met a kid named Marcus a few weeks ago. Reminded me of myself at that age. And I taught him the 3 rules. But I also started a program at his school. Every Tuesday, I spend time with kids who love basketball but don't think they're good enough or big enough or rich enough to make it." Jordan smiled. "Your father would be proud. I think about him every time I talk to those kids, about how he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself, about how he planned all of this before I even knew I needed help. The beautiful thing about what your father started," Jordan said, "is that it doesn't end with you. Every kid you help will help someone else. Every life you change will change other lives. That's how real greatness spreads." After the game, which Milwaukee won 118-112, Giannis received a text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Giannis, this is Marcus. I scored 12 points in my game today, and my team won. I used my championship switch when I got nervous in the 4th quarter. Thank you for believing in me." Attached was a photo of Marcus holding a small trophy, grinning so wide it looked like his face might break. Standing next to him was a little girl who had to be his sister, looking at Marcus like he had just conquered the world. Giannis stared at the photo until his eyes watered. This was what his father had meant in that final letter. This was why Jordan had shared those secrets. This was what real greatness looked like. 3 days later, Giannis announced something that surprised the basketball world. He was starting the Championship Mindset program, a free mental training course for young athletes who couldn't afford expensive coaching or camps. The program would teach the 3 rules to kids across the country. Not just basketball players, but any young person who had big dreams but didn't know how to handle the pressure that came with chasing them. My father once told someone that individual greatness is just the beginning, Giannis said at the press conference. Real greatness is what you do with your platform to help others believe in themselves. The first program session was held at Kenwood Academy, the same gym where Jordan had changed Giannis's life 2 years earlier. 50 kids from Chicago's South Side showed up, including some who had never touched a basketball but wanted to learn how to think like champions in school, in sports, in life. Giannis stood under the same spotlight where Jordan had taught him, but this time he was the teacher. As he looked at all those young faces, hopeful, nervous, excited, he thought about the invisible chain connecting them all. His father's love had created Jordan's wisdom. Jordan's wisdom had created Giannis's strength. And now, Giannis's strength would create something new in each of these kids. The first thing you need to know, Giannis told the group, is that champions aren't born. They're made, and the most important battles aren't fought on basketball courts or in classrooms. They're fought in here, he said, pointing to his heart. In the back of the group, a small hand went up. It was a girl who couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Yes? My name is Destiny. Are you going to teach us how to be brave? Giannis smiled and thought about his father, about Jordan, about Marcus and his sister, about all the scared kids who just needed someone to believe in them. Yes, Destiny. That's exactly what we're going to do. As the session began, Giannis felt his father's presence in the gym, not as a memory, but as a living force that connected every person in that room to something bigger than themselves. The circle was growing. The legacy was spreading. And somewhere, Charles Antetokounmpo was smiling, knowing that his son had finally understood the most important lesson of all. True champions don't just win, they create other champions, and that work would never end. Present day, June 2025. 3 years after that first championship mindset session at Kenwood Academy. The NBA awards ceremony was happening in Los Angeles, and Giannis was sitting in the front row wearing a black suit that his stylist had picked out. He had won 3 NBA championships now, 2 more MVP awards, and was widely considered one of the greatest players of all time. But tonight wasn't about basketball. Tonight was about something bigger. Ladies and gentlemen, the presenter said from the stage, this year's recipient of the NBA's Lifetime Achievement Award is someone who has redefined what it means to be great. Not just on the basketball court, but in the community, in the lives of young people, and in showing the world that true champions are measured by the lives they change. Giannis walked onto the stage to a standing ovation. In the audience, he could see Michael Jordan clapping. He could see Marcus, now 13 years old, sitting with his family in the 3rd row. He could see Destiny, the little girl who had asked about learning to be brave, now 11, and already running her own mentorship program for younger kids at her school. Most importantly, he could feel his father's presence everywhere in that room. Thank you, Giannis said as the applause died down. When I was a young player, I thought greatness was about individual awards and personal achievements. I thought it was about proving that I was better than everyone else. He paused and looked directly at Jordan, who nodded encouragingly. But someone very wise once taught me that individual greatness is just the beginning. Real greatness is what you do with your platform to help others believe in themselves. In the audience, Marcus was hanging on every word. Next to him sat his little sister, now 10 years old, wearing a jersey with Giannis's name on it. My father never got to see me win a championship, Giannis continued, his voice getting stronger. But he made sure I had everything I needed to become a champion. He taught me that success isn't about what you achieve, it's about what you help others achieve. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, his father's final letter, which he had read hundreds of times over the past 3 years. Before my father died, he wrote me a letter that I only got to read after I won my first championship. In that letter, he said something that changed my life forever. He said, "Your championships will be forgotten someday. Records will be broken. Trophies will gather dust. But the people you inspire, the young players you mentor, the children who see you and believe in their own dreams, that legacy will live forever." The room was completely silent. Even the camera crews had stopped moving. 3 years ago, I started the Championship Mindset program because I wanted to honor my father's vision. We've now worked with over 10,000 young people across the country. Not just basketball players, but students, artists, kids who dream of being doctors or teachers or scientists. Giannis looked out at the audience and found Marcus again. One of our first students was a boy named Marcus from Milwaukee. He was small for his age, didn't have money for expensive camps, and sometimes doubted whether his dreams were possible. But he had something more important than size or money. He had heart. Marcus was trying not to cry, but tears were streaming down his face anyway. Marcus taught me that when you help one person believe in themselves, you're not just changing one life, you're changing every life that person will touch. Marcus now mentors younger kids at his school. His sister Aaliyah started a program to help immigrant families learn English. The ripple effect of one conversation, one moment of belief, can change the world. The applause started slowly, but built into another standing ovation. But Giannis wasn't finished. There's something else I need to share tonight. Something I've never told anyone publicly. The room grew quiet again. That Championship Mindset program, those 3 rules we teach about mastering your mind, finding your switch and never letting them break, those weren't my ideas. They came from someone who understood greatness better than any basketball player who ever lived. He looked at Jordan, who was smiling through tears. They came from my father, Charles Antetokounmpo, a man who never played professional basketball, never made millions of dollars, never had his name in the record books. But he understood something that took me years to learn. That the greatest victory isn't winning for yourself. It's helping others discover they can win, too. Giannis paused and looked up toward the ceiling, as if he could see his father watching from heaven. "Dad, if you can hear me, I want you to know, we kept your promise. Not just me, but everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, everyone who decides to use their gifts to lift others up. We're all part of the legacy you started." He folded the letter carefully and put it back in his pocket, right over his heart. "This award has my name on it, but it belongs to everyone who believes that true champions aren't made by winning games. They're made by changing lives." As Giannis walked off the stage, the standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. But the most important moment came afterward, in the hallway outside the auditorium. Marcus and his family were waiting for him. "Mr. Giannis," Marcus said, "that speech was amazing. But I have something to tell you." "What's that?" "Remember when you taught me about the championship switch? About thinking of my sister when I got nervous?" "Of course." "Well, yesterday I taught those same rules to a kid at my school named David. He was getting bullied and didn't want to come to school anymore. But after we talked, he said he felt braver." Marcus's sister Aaliyah stepped forward. "And I taught them to my best friend Rosa, whose family just moved here from El Salvador. She was scared to try out for the school play, because her English isn't perfect, but she did it anyway and got the lead role. Giannis felt his eyes filling with tears. This was what his father had envisioned. This was what Jordan had prepared him for. Not just winning championships, but creating a chain of belief that would spread from person to person, generation to generation. "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard," Giannis said. Later that night, alone in his hotel room, Giannis called Jordan. "Congratulations on the award," Jordan said. "But more importantly, congratulations on understanding what it really means to be great. I couldn't have done any of this without you, without my father's plan." "You're wrong about that. Your father gave you the blueprint, and I helped you understand it. But everything you've built since then, the foundation, the programs, the lives you've changed, that's all you. It doesn't feel like just me. It feels like we're all connected. My father, you, me, Marcus, all those kids. Like we're all part of something bigger. That's because you are. That's what real greatness looks like. It's not one person standing alone at the top. It's a community of people lifting each other up." As Giannis hung up the phone, he walked to the window of his hotel room and looked out at the city lights below. Somewhere out there were kids who reminded him of himself at their age. Scared, hopeful, full of dreams they weren't sure they deserved to chase. His phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Giannis, my name is David. Marcus told me you might understand what it's like to feel scared sometimes. Can you teach me how to be brave like you taught him?" Giannis smiled and started typing his response. The work would never end, but that was the beauty of it. Every person he helped would help someone else. Every life he changed would change other lives. His father's love hadn't died with him. It had transformed into something eternal, something that would touch people Charles Antetokounmpo would never meet, in places he would never visit, for generations he would never see. But somehow, through the power of one man's belief in his son, and that son's willingness to pass on what he had learned, Charles's love would live forever. The scared kid from Athens was gone completely now. In his place was a man who understood that the greatest championship wasn't something you won for yourself. It was something you helped others discover they could win too. And that championship would never have a final buzzer. It would never end. It would just keep growing, one changed life at a time, forever and ever. The promise was fulfilled. The legacy was secure. The work would continue. And somewhere, Charles Antetokounmpo was smiling, knowing that love, real love, never dies. It just finds new ways to change the world. And that was the end of this incredible story. How a father's love, Michael Jordan's wisdom, and Giannis Antetokounmpo's determination created a legacy that changed thousands of lives. The 3 rules that transformed Giannis from a playoff disappointment into a champion weren't just about basketball. They were about believing in yourself when the world says you're not enough, using pain as fuel instead of an excuse, and understanding that true greatness comes from lifting others up. We'd love to know, where are you listening from today? Drop a comment and let us know your city or country. If this story inspired you or taught you something new, please hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people with these powerful stories. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of triumph, perseverance, and the hidden moments that shape greatness. We share stories like this every week. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. In a world that often focuses on division, stories like Giannis's remind us that love, mentorship, and believing in each other can change everything. Let's spread that kindness and awareness together. Remember, you might be one conversation, one moment of belief, one act of encouragement away from changing someone's life forever. Just like Charles Antetokounmpo changed his son's life. Just like Michael Jordan changed Giannis's life. Just like Giannis is changing countless other lives. The circle continues with you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.